Mom always said my birthday was the worst day of her life, so she never let me celebrate it. But Chloe got a big party every year. When I was little, I cried and begged for just one celebration. One cake. One candle. One moment where I didn't feel like a mistake. Mom didn't even look at my face. She opened her laptop, pulled up a spreadsheet, and shoved it toward me like it was proof I had no right to want anything. "I've spent $5,850.06 on you this year," she snapped. "You ungrateful burden. After everything I've spent, you still want a birthday party?" I didn't understand. We weren't poor. We had groceries, lights, heat. But Mom tracked every single penny like she was being forced to. Even the cost of an ice cream cone. "If it wasn't for having you," she said, voice sharp with old resentment, "my body wouldn't be ruined. Your dad wouldn't have run off and found another woman. Everything wrong in my life is because of you." Then she said the thing she always said, the words that never stopped echoing even after she left the room. "If you really want to make it up to me," she hissed, "then just disappear and set me free." I pulled my blanket over my head that night, too scared to even cry out loud. I told myself she didn't mean it. Not really. Adults said cruel things when they were stressed, right? Mothers got tired. Mothers made mistakes. But Mom didn't treat it like a mistake. She treated it like a truth. One day, she threw the spreadsheet at me again, furious over something small I couldn't even remember. My eyes were swollen from crying. I knelt on the floor in front of her, shaking so hard my teeth clicked. "Mom," I whispered, "when I grow up, I'll get a job and pay you back. I'll pay you back for everything." She didn't hesitate. Her hand flashed out, and my cheek burned. "Pay me back?" she screamed. "You think you can ever pay back the years I wasted raising you? If you really want to pay me back, then go." She stopped herself like she'd caught the edge of a thought and decided to sharpen it. "Go do something useful for once. Stop poisoning this house." She grabbed whatever she could reach, something from the counter, something from the table, and slammed it down. The sound of breaking things always made Chloe flinch, but Mom never broke anything near Chloe. Not once. Then she left with her, as if I was just a mess she didn't want to step around. I stayed behind, kneeling in the shattered pieces, alone. I waited for Dad to come home, because part of me still believed fathers were supposed to be different. He came in late, smelling like alcohol and cold air, and collapsed on the couch. He didn't ask how my day was. He didn't ask why the kitchen looked wrong. He just scrolled through his phone with that blank, distant face like the world was happening somewhere else. I stopped cleaning and brought him water, careful, quiet, hoping I could earn a softer voice. That's when I saw it, Mom's Snapchat story on his screen. In the photo, Mom was hugging Chloe, smiling like nothing had happened. Chloe had her arms around Mom's neck, cheeks flushed with happiness. The caption said, "No matter what, never take your bad mood out on your child. That's our promise." My throat tightened so fast it felt like I'd swallowed ice. She couldn't take her bad mood out on Chloe. But she could pour it all into me until there was nothing left. My hand shook and the water sloshed, spilling a little on Dad's shirt. He yanked his phone away and glared at me. "Lily, what's wrong with you? You can't even do one simple thing right. You're useless." My nose stung. Tears came like they always did, quick and humiliating, betraying me before I could stop them. "Dad," I whispered, "I didn't mean to." He pointed at the door without even looking up again. "Stop crying. You're so annoying. Just get out." I stood there for a second, waiting for him to take it back. Waiting for a sigh, a softer tone, anything that sounded like love trying to find its way through anger. Nothing came. I gathered all my courage, every trembling piece of it, and called after him as he headed upstairs. "Dad. Today. It's my birthday." He paused on the stairs, turned halfway, and for one fragile second, I thought he remembered. I thought he might say my name differently. I thought he might come back down and ruffle my hair and say he'd forgotten, but he hadn't meant to, but it mattered. Instead, he frowned like I'd asked him something ridiculous. "Birthday?" he said. "What birthday? When I was a kid, nobody gave a damn about birthdays. You don't know how good you've got it." Then he went upstairs without looking back. I stumbled outside and sank down in the snow because my legs didn't feel like they belonged to me anymore. The cold bit through my clothes, but it was clean compared to the heat inside my chest. Mom. Dad. You always said I was bad luck. Your curse. That you fought every day because of me. So if I wasn't here, would you finally stop fighting? That night, I got a fever so high the walls seemed to tilt. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I didn't deserve comfort anyway. But my body wouldn't listen. My skin burned. My thoughts blurred. And at some point, I crawled out of bed and knocked on Mom's door because I couldn't stop shaking. She yanked it open, already annoyed. What now? Keeping everyone awake? Are you trying to kill me? I shook my head quickly. No, Mom. I don't feel good. She cut me off with a sharp laugh. Don't feel good? What's your problem? Chloe hurt her leg today and she's not complaining. Right then, Chloe's voice rose from inside the room, small and dramatic, like a siren Mom would have always run toward. Mom's entire face changed in an instant. She turned, rushing back inside. Chloe, sweetie, what's wrong? Does it still hurt? Chloe sniffled. Mom, it hurts. It's Lily's fault for fighting with you today. I was so upset. I wasn't watching where I was going. Mom looked back at me like I'd committed a crime. This is all your fault, she said, quiet and lethal. You're nothing but bad luck. Then, like she couldn't resist saying it one more time, she added, why don't you just disappear already? The door slammed. I sank to the floor in the hallway, my fever pressing me down, and stayed there through the night because I didn't have the strength to crawl back to my bed. I used to think Mom loved Chloe more because Chloe looked like her. Same eyes. Same smile. Same easy kind of pretty that people praised. I couldn't change my face, so I tried to be perfect in every other way. From the moment I started school, I was always at the top of my class. I came home with neat handwriting, perfect scores, little gold stars that teachers stuck on paper like proof I was worth something. The day I showed Mom my report card, she was busy comforting Chloe, who'd come in last. I held out my paper like it was an offering. First place. Highest marks. A whole line of comments about how exceptional I was. Mom didn't even read it. She took it, glanced once, and tossed it into the trash without looking away from Chloe. I tried harder. I joined clubs. I entered contests. I brought home certificates and ribbons and trophies that felt heavy in my hands because I wanted them to be heavy in her eyes too. But Mom only ever saw Chloe. One day, our teacher assigned an essay about our mothers. Everyone else started writing immediately, stories about bedtime kisses and packed lunches and warm hands brushing hair away from foreheads. I stared at my blank page. I wrote and rewrote, crumpled paper after paper, because I couldn't remember a single time Mom had been gentle with me. Not one. In the end, I turned in a blank sheet. The teacher made me stand in front of the class and called me cold. Heartless. Ungrateful. My classmates stared like I'd revealed something ugly inside myself. I stood there listening to everyone else's essays, wondering the whole time if my mother had ever loved me at all, or if she only loved the idea of the child she wanted and blamed me for being someone else. As I got older, I finally understood. Mom didn't love me. Not because I wasn't good enough. Not because I hadn't earned it. She just didn't want me. She didn't want me to exist. I thought I was going to fade away that winter, but I didn't. I kept living in that house, stepping lightly, trying to make myself smaller, trying to take up less air, for another 6 months. Then, 2 weeks before Chloe's birthday, Mom became a different person, one I barely recognized. She started planning like the house was full of music. Decorations, gifts, lists, calls to caterers. She hummed while she worked, like happiness was something she could summon whenever Chloe needed it. I walked past her with red eyes, exhausted and hollow. Mom sighed and called me back. What's with the sad face? She said. Chloe's birthday is coming up. You better look happy. I don't want to see that miserable look on your face. I wanted to ask her why Chloe got big parties every year while I couldn't even have a small one, but the words got stuck in my throat like thorns. I just nodded and went to my room. Behind me, Mom kept humming. Chloe mentioned wanting Dad at her party, and Mom, who usually started fighting with him the second she saw him, actually cooked dinner herself and invited him. And he said yes. Just like that. For Chloe. I crouched in the kitchen later, crying quietly, tears dripping into my rice bowl. My stomach twisted until I couldn't eat. I threw out the leftover rice and pickles, trying to hide it so nobody would accuse me of being dramatic. Mom saw anyway. She exploded like she'd been waiting for an excuse. She slammed my bowl so hard it cracked, and her voice filled the whole house. Lily. If you don't want to eat, get out. You're throwing away food behind my back. Is my cooking not good enough for you? I stared at the broken pieces on the floor. No, I whispered. I just wasn't hungry. She struck me again, fast and stinging, and then turned away like I was nothing. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Chloe's plate piled with meat she'd barely touched. Nobody yelled. Nobody cared. The day of Chloe's party, the house filled with her friends, laughing, loud, bright. Mom floated between them, smiling, offering snacks, taking photos. Dad showed up in a decent mood. People complimented Mom like she was Mother of the Year. I carefully handed Chloe a gift I'd picked out just for her, something small I'd saved for months to buy. I'd imagined her wearing it, imagined her smiling, imagined for 1 second feeling like her sister instead of her shadow. Chloe didn't even look at it. She knocked the box to the floor. What is this? She scoffed. This garbage? I'm your older sister and this is how you treat my birthday? Don't you remember all the pretty dresses I gave you for yours? She had given me dresses. But they were never new. They were always hand-me-downs from her or her friends, things already worn, already tossed aside, already not good enough for her anymore. I picked up the gift, wiping dust off with my sleeve. My hands shook. Chloe, I said softly, forcing my voice not to crack, hair clips would look so good on you. I saved up for this. Please, just take it. She grabbed the box and threw it down again. I watched it hit the floor, and my chest tightened so much I couldn't breathe. I crouched, reaching for it like it was the last piece of dignity I had left. Chloe stepped on it. Once. Twice. Again and again until it snapped. She stood over me with her arms crossed, looking down like she was proud. Mom says it's bad luck if I wear something from you, she said. Who knows what'll happen? A jinx like you should take your bad luck and get out of this house. Her words got louder, sharper, reaching for the same cruelty Mom used like it was a family language. Mom and Dad had good lives until you came along, she said. You almost ruined Mom when you were born. You're the curse. My ears rang. The room tilted. The laughter, the music, the voices, all of it faded like it was underwater. I don't remember falling. I only remember waking up in my bed later, my whole body aching like I'd been dropped from somewhere high. Mom and Chloe were sitting by my bedside. For 1 second, hope lit up inside me so fast it hurt. It was the first time Mom had ever come into my room. The first time she'd sat near me without shouting through a doorway. I tried to sit up. My throat was dry. My voice came out small. Mom. Her hand flew out. My head snapped sideways. The sting spread across my face. I stared at her, stunned, tears instantly spilling. Mom, I didn't. What did I do? Don't call me Mom, she said, eyes blazing. I don't have a jinx daughter. Her voice rose with every word, as if she needed the air itself to agree with her. Look what you did. If you're going to make a scene, do it somewhere else. Why did you have to ruin Chloe's birthday? Your father finally agreed to come, and you ruined everything. My hope froze solid. She wasn't here because she cared. She was here because Chloe had cried. I tried to get up, but my legs gave out and I slid off the bed. The impact rattled my bones. I stayed there on the floor, kneeling in front of her like I'd done so many times before, like my body had learned that posture is a form of apology. I reached out and tugged weakly at the edge of her sleeve. Mom, I whispered. I didn't mean to. I'm trying so hard. I shower every day. I study. She jerked away and shoved me back with her foot. The movement was careless, angry. My head hit the bed frame hard enough that I saw bright spots, and something warm trickled down near my hairline. Mom didn't even flinch. She turned and rushed out, already done with me. When she came back a moment later, she changed her outfit. I noticed because the place where my fingers had grabbed at her sleeve was gone, replaced, erased, like I'd never touched her at all. That broke something in me more than the slap, more than the shove, more than the words. My voice shook as I forced the question out. "Why do you hate me this much?" I asked. "Chloe is your child. But I'm your child too." She didn't answer. Her silence was the answer. I lay there afterward, staring at the ceiling, listening to the party downstairs continue without me. Laughter. Music. Mom's bright voice. Dad's chuckle. Chloe's friends calling her name. Like the world could be whole as long as I wasn't in it. Later, when I heard them moving to the banquet hall, when I realized Mom was going to have the perfect ending to Chloe's birthday no matter what, I got up, dizzy and unsteady, and followed at a distance, not because I wanted to ruin anything, but because something inside me wanted to say goodbye. The hallway lights blurred. My head throbbed. My heartbeat sounded too loud. When Mom saw me near the entrance, her eyes filled with instant anger. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "And what happened to your head?" For a heartbeat, I thought she cared. "I'm fine," I whispered. She cut me off like my words were filth. "How unlucky. It's Chloe's birthday. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You want to bring bad luck to this whole family?" She stormed past me and into the banquet hall. The doors swung closed. Through the gap before they shut, I saw her lift a birthday hat and place it gently on Chloe's head. I saw her hands, so careful, so soft, touch Chloe like she was something precious. I stood there, alone in the hallway, and realized I had never been touched like that. Not once. I don't know what broke in that moment. Maybe it was the last stubborn piece of hope I'd been carrying since childhood, the one that kept insisting things could change if I was just good enough. I wanted to make her happy again. I wanted to stop being the problem. I wanted, somehow, to stop existing in the way she hated. I'd asked people before, in my small, frightened way, what it meant when someone was gone. Some of them said things like, they go somewhere better. They're free. They're at peace. And my feverish, exhausted mind twisted those words into something dangerous, something final. If I was gone, would Mom finally be free? I found my way to a stairwell and then higher, where the building felt quieter, where the air was colder and the sky looked close enough to touch. The city lights below blurred like distant stars. My hands trembled on the railing. I remember thinking, very calmly, that maybe this was the one thing I could do right. The one thing I could do that wouldn't disappoint her. Then someone called out behind me. I turned. A woman stood there, breathless and frightened, her eyes wide like she'd just walked into a nightmare. She was pretty, and she looked like someone's aunt, someone's teacher, someone who still believed children were meant to be protected. Her voice shook. "Sweetheart, you can't be up here. Come here. I'll take you to your mom and dad." I swallowed, tasting metal and cold. "Thank you," I said automatically, polite even now, like manners could save me. Then I heard myself ask the question that had been circling my head for years. "Ma'am," I said softly, "if someone goes away, do they go somewhere better?" Her face changed, fear, confusion, heartbreak. I kept talking because if I stopped, I might feel everything at once. "I asked people," I told her. "They said being gone means you get to be at peace. And my mom always says I'm bad luck. She tells me to go away. I don't want her to be upset anymore." The woman held out her hand, not daring to move too fast. "Honey," she whispered, "come here. Let me help you. Let's go downstairs. We'll figure this out." I shook my head. "If she sees me again," I said, and my voice cracked, "she'll be angry. I don't want to make her angry." I don't remember everything after that clearly. I remember cold air. I remember the woman calling for help. I remember the sound of doors opening somewhere below, and shouting and running. And I remember one last image, sharp as glass, Mom inside the banquet hall, leaning close to Chloe, pressing a kiss to her forehead like she was sealing a promise. Then Mom's eyes flicked toward the window. For a second, her expression changed. Shock. Panic. Something raw. People screamed. Chairs scraped. Someone rushed toward the glass. Mom stared as if the world had suddenly slipped out from under her, and she couldn't understand why. I wanted to ask her then, just once, just honestly, Mom, did I do something wrong again? If I didn't, why are you crying? But my voice was too far away. And the last thing I felt was not the cold, not the fear, not even the pain. It was the strange, aching wish that she had looked at me like she looked at Chloe, even once. When my eyes opened again, I wasn't in the stairwell. I wasn't in the hospital. I wasn't anywhere that made sense. I was sitting at our tiny kitchen table, the one with the wobbling leg we'd meant to fix for years. A cheap plastic cake box sat in the middle like a lie. The air smelled like grocery store frosting and cold coffee, and my grandma, my mom's mom, was smiling in that careful, hopeful way she always did when she tried to make things feel normal. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," Grandma said, like the words alone could protect me. Mom stood near the counter with her phone in her hand, mascara already perfect, hair already done, dressed like she was about to leave the house, not like she'd planned to sit down and eat with her kid. Grandma had been talking all week about taking us out. Just one nice meal. A booth in a diner. Something warm. Something simple. Something that felt like you belonged in the world. And then Mom did what Mom always did. She covered her face like she was the one breaking, and she started to cry. Not ugly crying. Not messy crying. The kind of crying that made her look tragic. The kind of crying that made people rush to comfort her. "You have no idea what you did to me," she choked out, staring at me through her fingers. "The day you were born was the most painful day of my life. And you think you deserve to eat something nice? You think you deserve to celebrate?" I stared at her. I stared at the cake. And then it hit me so hard my vision went sharp at the edges. I'd been here before. This was the day. This was the moment. In the life I'd already lived, I swallowed those words like I swallowed everything else. I apologized. I tried to make her feel better. I got smaller. I got quieter. I tried to disappear without actually disappearing. And I still died. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. Not in a way that made people stop and think, maybe we should have been kinder. I died the way you die when no one cares if you're alive. Slowly. Hungry. In a corner. While my mother lifted a glass and laughed with her friends like I was never there. So this time, something inside me didn't fold. Something inside me stood up. Grandma kept talking, trying to soothe Mom, trying to soothe me, trying to glue our lives together with fragile words, but I barely heard her. All I heard was my mother's accusation. All I saw was the cake she'd bought, not because she wanted me happy, but because Grandma was watching. Because appearances mattered more than I ever did. I leaned back in my chair and looked at Mom with the coldest calm I'd ever felt. "Oh," I said. "So when it's your birthday, I'm not allowed to ruin it with my face. But when it's mine, you get to ruin it on purpose." Mom blinked, stunned, like she hadn't expected me to talk back. Before she could recover, I grabbed the cake box, lifted it, and slammed it onto the floor. Frosting splattered. Plastic cracked. The cake rolled like a dumb, sweet planet and stopped near the table leg. Grandma gasped. Mom's mouth opened. I didn't let her speak. I knocked my chair back. I yanked the table hard enough that it scraped the tile. I grabbed a stool and flung it sideways like I'd become something wild and unrecognizable. And I screamed. Not a pretty scream. Not a small, ashamed one. A scream that said I am done dying quietly. "You don't like me," I shouted, voice shredding my throat. "Then why did you have me? Why did you bring me into this house just to punish me for existing?" Mom's face twisted. "You little..." I cut her off again, because I'd spent years getting cut off. "You dress up and go out and laugh and flirt and pretend you don't have a kid," I said, words firing out of me like sparks. "And I'm in this house drinking water until my stomach hurts because there's nothing to eat. If you couldn't afford to feed me, you shouldn't have had me. If you didn't want me, you shouldn't have kept me. You wanted a good time and no responsibility. That's what you wanted." Grandma reached for me, trembling. "Lily, baby." I turned to Grandma, and for the first time, I didn't soften my face to protect anyone's comfort. And don't you tell me to be grateful, I said. Because I've been grateful my whole life. Grateful for crumbs. Grateful for silence. Grateful for not being hit as hard as I could have been. Mom was shaking now, not from sadness, but from rage. You're a filthy little brat. Oh, am I? I laughed once, sharp and ugly. If I'm the brat, what does that make you? The walls felt thin. They were thin. The apartment was old. Sound carried. And I wanted it too. I wanted the whole building to hear me. I wanted witnesses. There was a knock at the door. Sharon? A woman's voice called out. Everything okay in there? It was Mrs. Jensen from next door. Retired. Always curious. Always listening. Always the kind of neighbor who knew everyone's business before they did. Mom's face changed instantly. That mask snapped into place like muscle memory. She lunged for me, hissing, "You shut your mouth." I didn't shut my mouth. I scooped a handful of ruined cake off the floor, smeared frosting across my lips like I'd been fed something good, and I ran to the door and yanked it open. Mrs. Jensen stood there in her slippers, eyes darting past me into our kitchen like she was watching a show. I lifted my chin and smiled so wide it hurt. "Hi, Mrs. Jensen," I said brightly. "It's my birthday. Mom got me a cake." Mrs. Jensen's gaze slid to the floor. To the smashed cake. To the stool on its side. To Grandma's pale face. Mom shoved past me, laughing too loudly. "Oh, don't listen to her. She's being dramatic. Kids, you know." I let my smile fade. Just a little. Then I let out a small, trembling sound, like I was trying not to cry. "Mom," I said softly, and I clutched my arm with both hands like I'd been hurt. "I won't say anything next time. Please don't pinch me like that. I won't talk. I promise." Mom froze. Because she knew exactly what she'd done to me in private. But she didn't know what I'd done to myself 5 minutes earlier, in the chaos, when no one was watching. I pushed my sleeve up. Purple marks bloomed along my skin, fresh, ugly, unmistakable. Mrs. Jensen's eyes widened. "Oh my lord," she whispered. "Sharon. How could you?" Mom went white. "That's not, she's lying." Mrs. Jensen stepped forward like she couldn't help herself. "You don't take your life out on a child," she snapped. "What is wrong with you?" Mom's jaw clenched so hard I thought her teeth might crack. Grandma started crying for real now, hands fluttering like helpless birds. Mom forced a smile so tight it looked painful. "It's a misunderstanding. She bruises easily." Mrs. Jensen looked at me again, and for a second, her nosy face softened. "Baby," she murmured, "are you eating enough? You're so thin." I held her gaze and didn't blink. Because the truth was simple. No. I wasn't. And the world could see it. Mrs. Jensen left with one last glare that promised gossip would spread by dinner. Mom shut the door and turned on me with her hand raised. I didn't flinch. I stepped closer. "Go ahead," I said quietly. "Hit me. Just make sure you do it loud enough this time. I'll scream louder than I did before. I'll make sure the whole building comes running." Her hand trembled in the air. Then it fell. Not because she suddenly grew a conscience. Because she cared about her image more than she cared about hurting me. She backed away like I was something dangerous. "What did I do to deserve you?" I shrugged. I knelt down and picked up a piece of cake that wasn't completely destroyed. I ate it with my fingers, like a starving animal, because I was starving. "Maybe," I said around a mouthful, "you should have thought about that before you kept me." Grandma sat down at the table like her bones had turned to water. She stared at me, eyes wet. "I know you're suffering," she whispered. "But she's still your mother. Respect is a two-way street," I said. My voice didn't shake. That was new. And I'm done paying for a relationship I never got. Grandma fumbled in her purse and pulled out a crumpled $100 bill. She pressed it into my hand like she was trying to save me with paper. I swallowed hard. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. The next morning, I went to school. I had 3 goals now, and they were simple. Eat. Study. Get out. On the way, I ran into Mrs. Jensen again by the mailboxes. She smiled too brightly, like she'd already told 5 people what happened. She patted my head and slipped a warm breakfast sandwich into my hand. Eat, sweetheart, she said. Don't go to school hungry. My throat tightened. Strangers could see it. Strangers could fix it, even in tiny ways. And my own mother couldn't. I ran the rest of the way with the sandwich clutched in my fist like it was something sacred. By lunch, the cafeteria smelled like torture. I checked my pocket. I had Grandma's money, but I knew it wouldn't last if I spent it like a normal kid. I needed it for notebooks, practice tests, anything that could buy me a better future. So I watched. I watched who threw food away. I watched who loaded their tray like it was a buffet and ate 3 bites and got bored. And that's how I met Sasha Monroe. Sasha was the kind of girl who wore clean sneakers and didn't worry about the price of anything. She was loud, pretty, slightly chaotic, and she was unbelievably picky. She piled her tray with options: chicken, fries, salad, fruit, and then barely touched any of it, like the food existed to be judged. When she stood up to toss it, I walked straight to her table. I put a hand on the back of her chair like I owned the place. Don't, I said. Sasha startled so hard she nearly dropped her tray. What the, Lily? Are you insane? I slid into the seat across from her, grabbed her fork, and started eating. Not slow. Not polite. Fast. Desperate. 3 minutes later, half her tray was gone. Sasha stared at me like I'd sprouted horns. Are you a feral raccoon? What is happening? I didn't look up. I'm hungry. You can't just, this is my food. You were throwing it away. That's not the point. I swallowed and finally met her eyes. Then what is the point? That you get to waste it and I'm supposed to pretend I'm not starving because it makes you uncomfortable? Her face changed. Confusion first. Then something like guilt. Then something like shock. You don't have lunch money? She asked, quieter. I shook my head. I didn't even bother making it pretty. My dad died, I said. My mom doesn't care. Some days I eat. Some days I don't. Sasha's mouth fell open. That's real? That's actually your life? I almost laughed. Of course it was. That was the problem. My life had always been real. People just didn't like looking at it. I set the fork down and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. You buy too much and you don't finish. The teachers keep complaining about it. So here's my deal. You eat what you want. I eat what you don't. Nothing gets wasted. Nobody lectures you. I don't starve. Sasha stared at me for a long time. Then she said, that's kind of gross. Being hungry is worse, I said. And I'm past being picky. She stared some more. Then she exhaled, like she was letting go of something she'd never had to think about before. Fine, she muttered. Whatever. Do it. Just don't make it weird. I almost smiled. It's already weird, I said, and started eating again. From that day on, lunch became a routine. Sasha would sit down with her tray. She'd eat a little. Then she'd slide the rest toward me without looking at my face too much, like she was afraid I'd see the softness and make fun of her for it. At first, she'd leave early because she didn't know what to do with the silence. I didn't mind. I ate in peace. But one afternoon, a group of kids wandered over, smirking like they smelled blood. Oh my God, one girl said loudly, fake gagging. She's actually doing it. She's eating Sasha's leftovers like a dog. Heat rose in my chest, familiar and old. Shame. The kind that made you want to disappear. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I lifted my eyes and looked at them calmly. Yeah, I said. I can't afford lunch. Sasha doesn't finish her food. I eat it. Nobody steals. Nobody gets hurt. Do you want some, or are you just here to be jealous in public? Their faces flushed. You're disgusting, A boy spat. I shrugged. I'm alive. They leaned in, hungry for cruelty. And then Sasha's voice cut through it, sharp and clear. Back off, she said. Everyone turned. Sasha had come back, maybe for her phone, maybe because she'd heard the noise. She stood behind them, arms crossed, eyes hard. She didn't steal anything, Sasha said. She didn't beg. She didn't do anything wrong. You guys are just bored and mean. The kids scattered the second they realized Sasha's social power could turn on them. When they were gone, Sasha sat down across from me again, quieter than usual. I looked at her. What's wrong? She swallowed. I'm sorry. They don't like me. So they couldn't attack me. They attacked you instead. I blinked. Then I shrugged like it didn't matter. I thought you were going to tell me I can't eat anymore, I said. Sasha's eyes widened. No, that's not what I meant. I waved my fork. Then we're good. But after that day, something changed. Sasha started ordering an extra bowl sometimes. She'd put the food she actually wanted into her own bowl. And she'd slide the rest into the other one for me, clean, separate, like she was trying to protect my dignity without saying the word dignity out loud. Then she started walking with me when lunch was over. Like we were friends. Like we were a team. Summer hit, and school disappeared, and the house swallowed me again. It didn't matter that I'd learned how to survive in a cafeteria. At home, survival was still war. Mom would vanish for days and come back smelling like perfume and bar smoke, acting like the fridge being empty was my fault for existing. One night, after I'd gone 2 meals without anything, I drank water until my stomach felt stretched and painful. My head spun. My hands shook. I tried to sleep it off. I couldn't. When I heard the front door open, relief hit me so hard I nearly cried. Mom, I called out, voice small on instinct. Before I could step into the living room, she shoved me by the shoulder and pushed me toward my bedroom. Stay in there, she hissed. Don't come out unless I tell you. The door shut. I pressed my ear to it and heard a man's laugh in our living room, low and unfamiliar. Mom's voice changed instantly. Soft. Sweet. Flirty. Like she was someone else's problem now, someone else's prize. And then my nose caught it. The smell of food. Hot, savory, real. My stomach twisted so violently my eyes watered. I opened the door. Mom was on the couch, curled up against a man I'd never seen before, smiling like she'd never screamed at anyone in her life. A plastic bag sat on the coffee table, barbecue, maybe, the kind that left grease stains through the paper. They both stared at me like I was a ghost. I didn't look at them for long. I walked straight to the coffee table. Then I dropped to the floor like my legs had given out. I clutched my stomach and let my voice go thin and weak. Mom, I whispered. I'm so hungry. Please. Just a little. I won't bother you. I swear I won't. Mom's face darkened, but the man, his name was Gary, I'd learn later, looked horrified. This is your kid? He asked, eyebrows lifting. She's skin and bones. Mom laughed too quickly. Oh, she's dramatic. She eats. She sleeps all day and then acts like she's starving. I lifted my head and looked at Gary with wide, innocent eyes. I didn't want to interrupt, I said softly. I really haven't eaten. Gary's face softened. He reached for the bag. Hey, he said gently, sweetheart. Here. Take some. It's fine. Mom's hand tightened on his arm like a warning. I didn't give her time to stop it. I took the bag. I whispered, thank you, like I'd been given a gift. And I went back to my room and ate with the door locked. Grease ran down my fingers. I didn't care. Food was food. When Mom stormed in later, her voice was a hiss. You little, do you have any idea what you just did? I licked barbecue sauce off my thumb and looked at her calmly. I didn't want to interrupt your date, I said, as if I was being reasonable. But I was starving. And I thought, no man wants a woman who could starve her own kid, right? Her face went blank. For a second, she couldn't find words. Then she slammed the door and left me alone again. 2 days later, she brought home another man. Different face. Different cologne. Same routine. And this time, I didn't even wait. At the dinner table, with him watching, I tilted my head like I was curious. "Mom," I said sweetly, "this uncle isn't the same one you had here last time." Mom's fork clattered. The man's smile slipped. "Last time?" I widened my eyes like I'd made an innocent mistake. "Oh. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm confused. But you always have a different uncle. Does he buy you things? Do I get a share too?" Mom's skin went gray. She snapped, "Lily, stop talking." The man pushed his chair back, jaw tight. "Sharon," he said slowly, "how many men are you bringing around your kid?" Mom tried to laugh. It sounded like it hurt. Kids make things up. She's jealous. She wants attention. I nodded rapidly. "Yeah," I said, voice trembling. "I'm making it up. Mom never brings men here. Those clothes and dinners and gifts just fell from the sky." Mom's hand rose like she was going to strike me. The man stood up. "I'm not doing this," he said flatly, and walked out. Mom stood there shaking, staring at me like she wanted to tear me apart. I stared right back. Because this was the new deal. If you tried to ruin my life, I would ruin your comfort. She finally shut herself in her room and cried, again, pretty crying, tragic crying, and when she came out, she sat across from me like she was holding a meeting. "What do you want?" she demanded. "What is this? Are you trying to destroy me?" I folded my hands on the table. "I want to eat," I said. "I want to stay in school. I want to stop having to survive like this." She scoffed. "Do you know how hard it is being a single mother?" I looked at her, her fresh nails, her clean blouse, her perfectly shaped brows. And I laughed. A real laugh. "Hard?" I repeated. "You want to tell me about hard? When you go out to restaurants and buy new clothes and spend money like you're trying to impress strangers, you don't seem that hard up. I'm not asking for the moon. I'm asking for food." Her eyes narrowed. "And if I don't?" I leaned forward, calm as ice. "Then every time you bring a man home," I said softly, "I will ruin it. Every time. I'll cry. I'll show bruises. I'll ask him why he's dating someone who can't feed her kid. I'll do it until you stop." She stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Not a child. A threat. Finally, she swallowed her pride. "Fine," she bit out. "I'll feed you. I'll give you money." Then she added, like she needed to win something, "But when school starts, you're staying in the dorms. You will not be here to embarrass me." I nodded. "Good," I said. Because the truth was, I didn't want to be in that house anyway. School wasn't just school to me. It was oxygen. I moved into the dorms as soon as I could. Mom paid the fees up front, because it made her look like a good mother on paper, and then tossed some cash at me like I was a bill she wanted to stop thinking about. I stretched every dollar. I ate enough to keep my body from collapsing. And the rest went to practice books, test prep, anything that could turn effort into escape. Sasha stayed by my side like a stubborn, shining thing I didn't know I deserved. She kept feeding me without making it humiliating. She shoved matching hoodies at me and called it bestie uniform, like it was normal for someone to share warmth. When I told her I couldn't afford an English listening program, she put an old MP3 player in my palm and said, "Don't argue. Just take it." When winter came and I started studying in the stairwell landing because the dorm room lights went out and I didn't want to bother my roommate, Sasha found me shivering and glared like she wanted to fight the whole world. "If you freeze your hands," she said, voice rough, "you won't be able to write your exams. And then I'll have to murder someone." I smiled, small and tired. "That's sweet." "It's not sweet," she snapped. "It's common sense. Come on." My rank climbed. Not because I was gifted. Because I was desperate. When you've already died once in a life that didn't care, you stop worrying about looking cool. You just work. By the end of the year, teachers who'd barely known my name were calling me an example. Students who used to look through me started staring like I'd performed magic. I didn't tell them the truth. There was no magic. There was only refusal. At some point, Mom started calling. Not to ask if I was okay. To brag. Neighbors had noticed my grades. People had started praising her. And suddenly, she wanted to be involved. She invited me to dinner to celebrate. It was almost funny. I showed up, and the first thing I did was eat. Not dainty. Not polite. I ate like someone who had once learned the hard way that food could disappear. Mom tried to smile through it. Then she cleared her throat. "Sweetheart," she said, voice fake soft, "I'm seeing someone. His name is Todd. He has a son, and the poor boy is struggling in school. You're doing so well. You could tutor him. It would help me. And it would help you too, because when we get married." I set my fork down. I looked at her. And I let my voice go flat. "Absolutely not." Her smile stiffened. "Lily." I said no, I repeated. "And if you push it, I'll flip this table and embarrass you so badly your eyebrows will fall off." Her eyes widened. She remembered. The screaming. The neighbors. The bruises. The way her precious image had nearly cracked. She stood up so fast her chair scraped. "Fine," she snapped. "Forget I asked." And she left. I went back to school, and I worked harder. By senior year, my entire life was built around one single idea. College. Not a fantasy. A door. On the morning of the SAT and then later the big state exams, moms lined up outside testing centers like prayer, holding coffee and telling their kids they'd be okay. Mom showed up too. For half a second, my heart did something stupid. It lifted. It hoped. Then I saw her outfit. Bright red. Tight. Carefully styled. And her phone held up like she was filming herself. She wasn't there for me. She was there for content. For attention. For a clip she could post with a caption like, "Proud Mom Moment." And pretend she'd earned the ending. I didn't react. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I walked past her, shoulders straight, and Sasha's mom, warm, gentle, the kind of woman who spoke to me like I mattered, squeezed my hand and whispered, "You've got this." And I did. When my acceptance letter came, I opened it, closed it, opened it again like I couldn't trust my eyes. Full scholarship. Stipends. Support. A future that didn't depend on anyone's mercy. I sat on the dorm floor and cried until my face hurt. Not because I was broken. Because I wasn't. Mom found out and immediately started shouting about a huge celebration, a big party, invitations, photos, a college send-off like she'd been cheering the whole time. Grandma and the rest of the family got involved too, my aunt, my uncle, the same people who'd watched me suffer and called it discipline and family. They all wanted to stand next to my success now. I let them talk. Then I poured cold water on the whole thing. "No," I said. "Sasha's mom is throwing it." The room went silent. Mom's face twisted. "How dare you," she snapped. "That's your party. I'm your mother." I smiled gently. "You tell me," I said. "Who's been my mother?" She didn't have an answer she could say out loud. I walked out and didn't look back. On the day I packed, Mom hovered in the doorway like she wanted to speak but didn't know how to make words that weren't weapons. Finally, she whispered, "Do you want me to take you to campus?" I didn't even turn around. I kept folding my clothes. "No," I said. "But you've never." I did turn then. And my smile wasn't kind. "I've never lived in a dorm before, either," I said. "I've never lived alone in a house where no one fed me. But I survived it anyway. Didn't I?" Her face crumpled, like she wanted to feel guilty. I didn't let that guilt touch me. "Here's what's going to happen," I said calmly. "I'm not going to abandon you. I'll pay the bare minimum I'm legally required to when I have a steady income. Because you are my mother, technically." Her eyes widened. "But I'm not going to love you," I continued. "And I'm not going to pretend. And we're not going to be close. When I see you, I remember being hungry. I remember being blamed for your life. I remember you telling me to disappear. That doesn't go away because I got into college. I pulled an envelope from my bag and set it on the table. That's the money you paid for school, I said. Double. With interest. Some of it is from my summer job. Some is from awards. I'm not your debt anymore. Mom's hands fluttered like she wanted to refuse. I didn't mean it. We both knew that wasn't true. I lifted my suitcase. This is goodbye, I said, and my voice stayed steady. That was the miracle. Not dramatic goodbye. Just final. I walked out. I didn't look back, even when I heard someone calling my name. College was busy and bright and brutal in the best way. I worked part-time. I studied like my life depended on it, because in a way, it had. I learned what it felt like to drink hot coffee in the library at midnight and not have to be afraid of anyone slamming a door. I learned what it felt like to eat a meal and not brace for punishment afterward. And then, on orientation day for the new freshman class, I heard a voice behind me that made me stop short. Lily. I turned. Sasha stood there with a backpack and a grin like she'd pulled off a heist. I stared at her. What are you doing here? She shrugged like it was no big deal. I didn't do great last year, she admitted. So I retook the exams. And I decided if you were going to this school. I was going to this school. My mouth fell open. Why? Sasha tilted her head, eyes bright. Because I got used to eating lunch with you, she said simply. And without you, I felt weird. Like something was missing. So, here I am. Then she hooked an arm around my neck and leaned her weight into me like she always did when she wanted to pretend she wasn't being emotional. You owe me, she said. 1 year of you being too busy for me? I suffered. I laughed until my eyes stung. Fine, I said, breathless. I'll make it up to you. Just, let go before you choke me. No, she said smugly. Not until I see effort. We walked across campus like that, two girls in mismatched backpacks, laughing into the wind, like the past couldn't reach us anymore. It could still hurt. It could still echo. But it couldn't trap me. Because I'd finally learned something my mother never taught me. I wasn't born to be someone else's curse. I was born to live. And this time, I was going to do it loudly.